Daryl Recommends Podcast is a podcast recommending series and shouldn't be mistaken as a reviewing one. Opinions about each show are my own and should not reflect what each podcast has to offer. Content warnings aside, I believe if any recommendation in my series interests you, you should give it a chance, regardless of how I personally view about the show.
Te invoco a profundos inferni, daemon esto subjecto voluntate me. Te invoco a profundos inferni, daemon esto subjecto voluntate me. What now? Janice!
What? Oh, sorry. I was just thinking about that McWhatever guy blowing up that building in Oklahoma City the other day. How could anyone be that evil? And you literally want to summon a demon using a spell from some old book? It just seems like a bad...
Janice, you need to take a chill pill. Jesus. What does it say we do next?
Okay. I guess we wait? It doesn't really say how long it's gonna be before the demon or whatever shows up.
You really are scared,
Disaster strikes Gunaway, Texas, where a hoodoo apprentice accidentally releases a demon, causing disaster in the small town. With things getting worse and her apprentice missing, Mama Sherry must gather allies to save what is left of the town. Afflicted is a BIPOC horror podcast set in the South. Season 1 features a singular storyline set in a small town in Texas. This podcast is shorter with only 10 episodes and explores hoodoo and the supernatural. So this is a very interesting show. I had this one on my radar for a while. I don't remember which podcast it was that was like first talking about it when season 1 was running. I just hit my desk, sorry about that. It was either Old Gods of Appalachia or it was one of Bloody Disgusting shows, probably the SCP archives. But it is an interesting show. It has a very well planned out story arc that not only leads you onto a good mystery, but it has a satisfying season 1 ending that makes you want more. And I really do want a season 2 for this show. I really enjoyed the storyline for season 1. I don't want to get too much into it only because there's only 10 episodes of the show, but it does leave off on the place where it's like, oh yeah, I could definitely see the direction of a season 2 and where it can like go. But it doesn't end off on like a kind of ending like Seven of Hearts, for example, where it's like, wait a minute, this needs like, we need another season because we gotta know where it goes from here. So if you're somebody who doesn't really like podcasts that haven't had a really long, haven't really had like a continuation and like don't like cliffhangers because the story has been on pause for so long, I think they didn't make their fundraising goal, but I'm hoping that maybe they'll be doing a season 2. This show doesn't really have that. I didn't feel unsatisfied with how season 1 ended. And if you're also somebody who does not like long podcasts with like super many episodes, like, oh goodness, I recommended Woebegone over a year ago and there's already multiple seasons of that show out. Oh boy. But it's a very good listen through and through. And what's cool about this show is, along with a main POC cast, it also features both queer and neurodivergent characters, which is really nice. It is very hard to find a podcast that does not have at least one queer character in it, at least in the audio drama, fictional side of things. But I like how the show kind of handles it. There's one character who has, I believe he has schizophrenia, and there are characters who are obviously not good people who are mean to him about it, but the show never demonizes him from being schizophrenic and also for being a little bit supernatural, and I think it goes about it in a very tasteful way, which is very nice when talking about neurodivergency with supernatural stuff. Rather than going the route of this character's got schizophrenia, therefore they have to be crazy. And it's just overall, this is a very, I really enjoyed listening to this show. I don't know anything about hoodoo, so I can't really say anything about that. But I enjoyed the writing, I enjoyed the supernatural stuff, I enjoyed the characters. The characters were very nice, even the ones I hated. And very nice as in yeah, this is a fictional podcast character whose death I can root for. Yay! So overall, just a very good show. very nice, like, short listen if you need, like, if you want something to listen to for a couple hours while you're, like, drawing or doing some chores or whatever, then I think this is one of those, like, good short listens. So, yeah, I'd say go listen to it. Obviously, this is a horror podcast, and there's a big emphasis on the horror parts of it, so if you're somebody who does not like extreme horror, a little more tame than some of the stuff I've recommended in the past, like Malevolent, it's got, like, death and murder, it's got some queerphobia from some of the people who did get murdered, and racism in it, so if something like that doesn't appeal to you, that's something that you know, you should be wary of. It does go into a little bit of, like, some pretty gross racist stuff that happened in the past. There's not, like, don't worry about, like, characters calling each other slurs in your ears, because that's not what I'm talking about with the racism stuff. But you just need to be a little bit, like, just be a little bit aware that there is that kind of stuff in it if you are not going and don't want to go into a show and see, like, something that might trigger you. My dog is right next to me, and she really wants to get on my bed. But overall, I really enjoyed this show. This is another short recommendation. I already have my next one lined up, and I promise. I'm not gonna say which show, but if you follow me on Blue Sky, I've been talking a lot about it, so you probably know. But if you have not, I'm normal. That's gonna be a fun episode. But yeah, overall, I hope the show does get a second season. I would definitely be interested in listening to it as it's coming out, unlike with this one where I heard about it years prior, but didn't start listening to it until, like, recently. So yeah, I also am going to be linking down relevant sites below, like always. I'm going to see if I can find their fundraiser. I don't know if it's still taking money. If it is still taking money, I'll put it down below. If it's not, then I'll link to, like, whatever Patreon or Ko-fi that they have instead. So you will figure out what I figure out when you go into the description down below to look at all the relevant sites, because I know you guys do that. I know you do. Don't deny it. I know you do. And as always, leave a suggestion for a podcast for me to listen to. I am almost done with what is most likely going to be my next recommendation, because I am very, very normal about it. And yeah, so also, if you want to follow me on any other of my social media sites, like on Blue Sky, where I ramble about whatever I'm listening to at the moment, if the show earworms itself into my head, like aforementioned my current listen has, then you can find that down below. Also, I do link my socials and my webcomic, because I do a horror webcomic. Anyway, that is all. Goodbye, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye!